The 98th Academy Awards are just a few days away, and there are several sci-fi films that are nominated for Oscars this year. Let's look at each one of them. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sophist. My name is Bill. This year there are 4 legitimate science fiction films nominated for various awards at the Oscars. This isn't just a best visual effects kind of year for sci-fi. We're talking about some major categories. Historically, the Oscars have looked past science fiction. And I'm not saying that they're all the way there yet, but the situation has improved in recent years. The films nominated this year are Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, Yorgos Lanthimos' Bugonia, James Cameron's third trip to Pandora, Avatar: Fire and Ash, and the surprising return of the Dino franchise, Jurassic World Rebirth. Okay, first up is Bugonia. This film is directed by the brilliant and delightfully weird Yorgos Lanthimos, whose previous works include Poor Things and The Favorite. Bugonia is a dark, satirical science fiction comedy based on a South Korean cult film. 2 young, conspiracy-minded men become absolutely convinced that the high-powered CEO of a major company is actually an alien from another planet who is plotting to destroy Earth. They decide to do the logical thing, kidnap her to save the world, as one does. This film didn't get a massive list of nominations, but it hit the crucial ones. Bugonia is nominated for Best Actress for Emma Stone, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Picture. Look, I enjoyed Bugonia. If you've seen a Lanthimos movie before, you know his vibe. It's stylized, the dialogue is unique, and the tone is somewhere between hilarious comedy and deeply uncomfortable dread. Emma Stone, who appears in many of Lanthimos' movies, plays the kidnapped CEO, and she is great. She has to play a character who might be a lying human, or she might actually be an insectoid alien trying to blend in. The ambiguity she pulls off is masterful, and it's no surprise she got the nomination. It is a sci-fi movie, but it's sci-fi in the way that, like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is sci-fi. The core of the film isn't about the alien tech or the alien planet. It's about paranoia, misinformation, and the madness of crowds. The sci-fi element is the premise that drives the psychological chaos. I thought it was a brilliant film. It's one of those films that makes you laugh and then immediately feel bad for laughing. Is it my favorite of the year? Maybe not, but it's an incredibly unique, unsettling piece of movie making that is very deserving of its place here. Next, we are going from the darkly weird to the blindingly beautiful. James Cameron and Avatar: Fire and Ash. Fire and Ash is the third installment in the Avatar saga. Following the events of The Way of Water, this film expands the world of Pandora by introducing us to a new, aggressive, and perhaps more antagonistic Na'vi clan called the Ash People. These Na'vi live around volcanic regions and have a very different, more destructive relationship with their environment than the Omaticaya or the Matakaina we've seen before. The film is described by Cameron himself as a continuation of the family saga, dealing with the darker angles of Na'vi culture. I mean, look, it's an Avatar movie. It's a mathematical certainty that it will get nominated for technical awards. Avatar and Fire and Ash is nominated for Best Costume Design and Best Visual Effects. First off, let's acknowledge the obvious. This movie is a visual masterpiece. Nobody does world building on this scale like James Cameron and his team at Weta FX. Ash People, their volcanic architecture, the creatures that live in that environment, it's all mind-blowing. The way they managed to integrate the CG actors into these incredibly complex environments is still magic. If you saw this in IMAX 3D, you know it's less like watching a movie and more like a teleportation device. I enjoyed this movie. I will probably never not enjoy a trip to Pandora. The introduction of the Ash People was a clever move. It adds complexity. We've always seen the Na'vi as one-dimensional, noble protectors of nature, so seeing a faction that might be power-hungry or destructive adds a necessary layer to the world's politics. However, for me, it wasn't as good as the previous entry, The Way of Water. Fire and Ash felt like it suffered a bit from middle chapter syndrome. The pacing was a little slower, and while I loved the new characters, the emotional stakes of the Sully family felt slightly less acute than they did in the last film, where the loss was so devastating. It's still a 9 out of 10 experience, but The Way of Water was a 10 out of 10 powerhouse. It's gorgeous, it's thrilling, and I will be the first in line for Avatar 4. But this one didn't quite reach the same emotional peak for me. Now we come to the surprise of the year for me, the movie that had no business being as good as it was, Jurassic World Rebirth. Directed by Gareth Edwards, who gave us Rogue One and The Creator, this film attempts a total tonal reboot of the Jurassic franchise. Set a few years after dinosaurs have been set loose on the planet, the film abandons the high-tech theme park concept entirely. Instead, it's a grounded, gritty, and incredibly tense thriller about a small group of people, a scientist, a guide, and a family, trapped on a remote, abandoned island research facility in a region now completely dominated by dinosaurs. It's more of a classic man versus nature survival horror film than a sci-fi action blockbuster. Because it's a Jurassic movie, it was always going to land here. It is nominated for Best Visual Effects. Okay, I need to make a confession. I have not been a huge fan of the recent Jurassic World movies. I actually have not liked any of them since Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World. I actually didn't even bother to see the previous one before this one. I was completely done with this franchise. I thought they had mined all the potential, turned the dinosaurs into superhero adjacent pets, and lost all the awe and terror that Steven Spielberg tapped into back in 1993. I rolled my eyes when they announced another one. But my best friend is a big Jurassic fan, and he convinced me to go with him to see this on his birthday last July. And I actually really liked this movie. It surprised me completely. Gareth Edwards did exactly what I hoped he would do. He remembered that dinosaurs are scary. He didn't use CGI to make 50 different mutated species doing impossible things. He used a handful of classic dinosaurs, raptors, a T-Rex, maybe a Dilophosaurus. He places the camera low, uses wide shots to show their overwhelming scale, and treats them like a looming, majestic force of nature rather than a simple action monster. The movie is tense. It's moody. It has a beautiful natural lighting style that makes the dinosaurs look incredibly real and terrifying. It's less about running away from the explosions and more about hiding in the shadows, hoping they don't smell you. The science fiction element, which usually gets silly in this franchise, like making a hybrid dinosaur that can turn invisible, is kept grounded here, focusing on the simple, devastating reality of humans no longer being at the top of the food chain. If you are a fan of the original Jurassic Park and felt betrayed by the recent trilogy, you owe it to yourself to see Rebirth. It's a masterpiece of tension. And finally, we saved the absolute best for last, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Del Toro has been trying to make this movie for decades, and he finally did it. This isn't a remake of the classic Boris Karloff monster movie. This is a passion project, a definitive, sprawling, artistic adaptation of Mary Shelley's original 1818 novel, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. The film stars Oscar Isaac as the tormented, brilliant Victor Frankenstein and Jacob Elordi as the tragic, philosophical creature. It delves deep into the existential horror, the theme of parental desertion, and the consequences of godlike ambition. This movie is an award season juggernaut. This isn't just a sci-fi hit, it's an all-around best hit. Frankenstein is nominated for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Jacob Elordi, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Sound, Best Costume Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and Best Original Score. In a year of incredibly strong sci-fi, Frankenstein is in a league of its own. I'll go even further. This is the best, most faithful adaptation of Mary Shelley's original science fiction book ever put to film. Del Toro has loved this story since he was a child, and it shows in every single frame. He respects the source material, not just by sticking to the plot, but by capturing the core philosophical essence of the novel. Mary Shelley didn't write a story about a simple, reanimated corpse that goes on a rampage. She wrote the very first science fiction novel. She wrote about the horror of responsibility, the ethics of creation, and what actually defines humanity. And Del Toro taps into that perfectly. Jacob Elordi's portrayal of the creature is staggering. He's not a grunting brute. He is eloquent, he is intellectual, and he is a monster only because Victor abandoned him to a world that saw him as one. His character's pain is given the emotional weight it deserves. Oscar Isaac as Victor is a masterful study of ambition, hurtling into madness and cowardice. Visually, it is the most beautiful film of the year. It uses practical effects, where possible, giving the creature a physical presence that is simultaneously horrifying and tragic. The production design is gothic. The set designs, the costume designs, they don't look like sets, they feel like 19th century reality. The score by Alexander Desplat is haunting and melancholy. It is a flawless piece of art. It's not just the best sci-fi film of the year, it might be one of the best films of the decade. Del Toro created a masterpiece. So there you have it, four incredible, distinct visions of science fiction at the 2026 Oscars. I thoroughly enjoyed Bugonia for its unique, uncomfortable brilliance. Avatar Fire and Ash was a visual feast, but slightly less impactful than the last one. Jurassic World Rebirth was my biggest shock of the year. A tense, grounded survival story that finally brought the terror back to the franchise. But if you're asking me where the gold should go, it has to be Frankenstein. It's a rare moment where a director's decades-long passion project meets a massive studio budget and is executed with complete artistic freedom. It is the gold standard for how to adapt a classic work of literature and how to make a sci-fi film that matters philosophically and emotionally. It is by far the best of the bunch. But that's just my take. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these four films was your favorite? Were you as shocked by Jurassic Park Rebirth as I was? Or do you agree with me that Frankenstein is at the top of your rankings? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. And click on subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Have a good day, guys.